Здравствуйте. My name is Titus Barker. It's my first attempt at a traction journal. Hopefully, this format is acceptable. I thought it'd be a lot more fun and entertaining than just writing something out, since I know you have to go through a lot of these. So hopefully, this can you can either just put it on in the background while you're doing something else, or just have random gameplay to just feast your eyes on while I'm rambling about the traction prompts. Um, this is supposed to be Traction Journal 2, um, but I didn't do Traction Journal 1 because the E1s, at least to my knowledge, weren't really given how to do the traction journals the first week. So one of my group members just said, submit Traction Journal 1 with Traction Journal 2. So I'm going to do my best to do that. I'm not quite sure I can answer all the questions of Traction Journal 1, just because I missed the meeting for some reason. I don't remember the exact reason. Um, but I missed the meeting for Traction Journal 1. And it was mostly just like introduction week, so it wasn't too much to talk about, in my opinion, anyway. But anyway, I'll get started on. I'll work backwards from the Traction Journal 2 prompts, and then later on I'll move on to the Traction Journal 1 prompts. So, starting off, Traction Journal 2 prompts. What did you love this week, and what would you have loved to have achieved this week? What I loved this week was our group was awesome. We killed the presentation, and we got best score for the like voting what the best the presentation was. I thought that was awesome. I That kind of thing never happens with my team, so like having it finally happen is awesome. Um, and I love my teammates. I think we did a great job with that. What I would have loved to achieve this week, kind of would have liked to be more familiar with WordPress. Um, I, I've used WordPress before, but I think I was using a different version of WordPress or something because it was vastly different than the WordPress we're using currently. So I'm trying to refamiliarize myself with everything and get everything ironed out, which I'm still in the process of doing. Um, but ultimately, it was a pretty good first week. I was very happy with how things played out. I really liked the fast pace of things. I thought that was a great way to get us familiar with what we're going to be doing throughout the quarter. Um, I personally really enjoy that kind of learning. I love like just being thrown into something and being told to figure it out because that's what I'm good at. Just you know, instant learn moment. That sort of thing. Um, but I thought this week was pretty good, and I there was a lot I enjoyed this week. Um, So, question two, please share your personal experiences and the lessons you learned from completing VP1 this quarter. How may they help you and have a successful and fulfilling VP2? How will you put that into action? So, my personal experiences this quarter, my teammates were super on top of things. There were six teammates total with me, five of which were VP1s, which apparently isn't supposed to happen. But I forget what she is exactly. But our upper VP Megan did a phenomenal job of making sure we all stayed on top of everything and getting us familiar with the material. And I thought that was awesome. She did a wonderful job with that. Um, Lessons I learned. It For me, it might just be my poor takeaway, but it was less about the lessons I learned this week and more about as I said before, familiarizing yourself with how this quarter's gonna go and what everything's gonna be about. Which I think this first week was. I love that. Part of me wishes every class could do that, because if every class could, that would be like a great introduction to the class. just show what everything's going to be about. But not every class can do that, obviously. Um, you know that yeah. So in terms of lessons I've taken away, it's hard to say the exact lessons. I guess you could say I, learned how to work together with a team that I just met to throw together a project in a very short amount of time, which I think was awesome. Um, I think uh, incredibly long time limits to do projects aren't necessary. Um, and I thought this was a great example of that. Don't get me wrong, longer time limits gives you more option to refine what you're working on. However, if you have too much time, then you just end up wasting that time and not actually using it to work on the project just because you don't need it. So I thought this was like a great example of you have this short amount of time, get everything together, go, and we'll figure it out from there. I thought I loved the first week. How may they help you have a successful and fulfilling VP2? How will you put that into action? I'm still trying to figure out how the quarter is gonna go, so I don't know how it's gonna have. You know, it did a good job of developing the basics. Um, establishing what the core concepts are, what the core things we're gonna be focusing on are, and if it's gonna go the way I think it will, then we'll just be elaborating further on like the main points that this week has you know kind of like brought forth. Um, some examples being surveying, interviews, data collection, um, and then putting the presentation together. So like developing um, a not like an example, I guess. Um, it's kind of the words are escaping me, but like a prototype. Yeah, a prototype. Prototyping. Um, gathering evidence. Data collection, prototyping. I guess day before presentation, sort of, and then presentation itself, and then post presentation. I guess if class is gonna go how I think it's gonna go, I feel like it would focus on those individual subjects throughout the quarter. So, the first little bit will be on data collection. We'll be focusing entirely on collecting data, optimal ways to do that, um, you know, just developing or collecting data. Because, this was one project in a super short amount of time. The only downside of that, I'd say, is like when we move on to the next project, which from how it sounds is the same thing, just drawn out. Um, for me anyway, it's gonna be harder to not just do everything all at once because we've already done the same thing but all at once. So I'm sure there's like specific stuff we're gonna be working on that's focusing on you know individual aspects, but that's how I see the quarter going, and that's how I see like what this first week has brought us can be used. It's like just knowing what's ahead of us, pretty much. What challenges are you facing, and what's next? I brought this up um, with someone who asked me how the first week went. They kind of wanted feedback on stuff. I brought this up with them. I'm gonna bring it up again because I think it's very important. Um, Class feels very disorganized. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of stuff I'm bouncing around between. We have like 6 or 7 different websites we use, which I feel like can be narrowed down. I feel like Canvas isn't be using to its potential at all. Um, I think the calendar is almost unnecessary. I think what's on the calendar is important, but I think if you just moved what's on the calendar into Canvas, that would make things It'd make things a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to keep track of. Because I didn't know about the calendar until I submitted the feedback for the first week, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, everything that you'd expect to be on Canvas is on the calendar." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a calendar." So another thing I was not happy about was using Google Drive again. Like going back to sophomore year of high school, I haven't used Google Drive since then. Don't get me wrong, it does its job. It does a good job of what it does. However, Western provides us with um, like access to the Microsoft Office suite, which in my opinion is Google Drive but better because it's a premium service. And I think it's kind of a waste of our money to not, take advantage of that because we're paying for it. And like I said, it's Google Drive but better. It can do almost all the things Google Drive can do, and it's like say let's take PowerPoint for example. It's like Google's version of PowerPoint, but it's a lot. There are a lot more tools, and it's a lot more. You can do a lot more with it, and I think you know we by making us use the Microsoft suite, it could also help us develop skills that would be very helpful in future ventures and entrepreneurship pursuits. Um, just because Microsoft Suite is so useful and like if we got like familiar with Microsoft Suite, it would do nothing but bring us like benefits in terms of future entrepreneurial pursuits because it's very useful in that field. I know in the business field specifically, which I'm also taking, I am a international business major. Microsoft Excel is going to be used a lot. Um, I don't. I think Microsoft PowerPoint is more of a focus on entrepreneurship, whereas Excel is a focus on business. But those things mesh together a lot, and they go very well together. So I just think making us use like the Microsoft Office suite would be better than using Google Drive. Um, that's pretty much my biggest complaints, and the only challenges I had is just keeping track of things is a bit of a pain. Um, Microsoft Teams I do like. However, I think it can be. It's another one of those things that can be more optimized, I guess, because it feels kind of cluttered as is. I'm in at least 4 or 5 different group chats for this class alone, which doesn't feel necessary. I think the group chat involving the coaches and just our VP1 group, uh, I don't think those need to be separate. I think you can throw those two together, and then that also gives coaches less to worry about, and that gives us like not as much extra stuff that we have to like sort through. Because only at the end of this week did I like actually get my notifications together. I also use Microsoft Teams for work, so for this entire week I didn't have notifications turned on at all because I would have just been blowing up all week. But I discovered you can mute certain chat rooms, and so I did. Um, so I do have notifications on. I just think there's like it's clutter. It's a lot of clutter. Um, I know you guys are working hard though. I understand that. I have nothing but appreciation for what you guys are doing. I love this course. I think it's awesome. It's just messy as it is. And, you guys are always working to improve that, so I don't think it's that big a deal. Those are just my complaints about it. What's next? What's next? Oh, man. I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of, as I said before, this week of preparation, just drawn out over the course of the entire quarter. which I'm not entirely looking forward to, but at the same time, it'll help us develop skills in each of those individual sections that we focused on. Um, which, yeah, it's useful. Um, I just hope the class is structured in a way that will make the most of that, because there are some classes that there are some classes I've had that have done a similar thing, but structured it so like the entire focus of the second part of the class was on the ending presentation for like the second project. And if we did that, then I could just bang that presentation out in a week, do a good job of it, and be done with this entire quarter. Um, so I hope this class does it differently, so it's not all front loaded on that presentation, and there's more we focus on. Um, just because it's a real shame when a class does something like that. It's like I came here to learn stuff. I don't want to just have two presentations do all quarter, and two presentations I can bang out in a short amount of time. Because presentations aren't hard to do, not at all. It's just if there's valuable information to be gained from uh, like spending time and teaching us about the like I said, the different like sections of the presentation. Like there's the presentation itself, there's the data collection, there's the prototyping. I feel if we do a good job of focusing on those, and there's actual like good information to be gained, then I think that's a job well done. In addition to whatever else we might be learning, it might be more than just the project. But from my understanding currently, um, this whole first quarter of entrepreneurship is just focused on that first and second venture project, um, which honestly I'm still kind of excited for because I'm ready. I'm, I'm I love business, and I really want to get started on my own stuff as soon as I can. I A friend actually came to me recently with a business idea because he's a fan of drop shipping stuff, um, and he knows I'm a fan of business. So he's like, "Hey, I found this cute little niche of drop shipping that feels scummy, but we could totally like make a business out of." I was like, you know what? Let me gather a little more information on that. I'd totally be down to try something like that. If you don't know, drop shipping is basically man in the middling, manufacturing to consumer, like consumer purchasing, I guess. Like you go out and find the cheap goods, and then you sell them to consumers for a marked up price. Um, which usually the marked up price is due to a finding, like the finder's fee, and sometimes drop shippers will brand the goods under their own drop shipping name. um, like I There's one example where like the drop shipper sells jewelry, which is like they purchase it for like $1.50 per like ring or whatever. They send it to their own custom engraving place and have their logo or whatever engraved on it, and then they sell it at like 120 or whatever bucks. So no, I'm excited to I'm looking forward to the rest of this course and the future entrepreneurship courses, just because I think it has a lot of information to be to offer to me, and I could learn a lot from it. Um, the reason I haven't started my own stuff yet is just because in my opinion, there there are two sort of three important things to starting your own business, or entrepreneurship pursuit. Um, there's education, because you can't do anything without knowing what you're doing. There's experience, because even if you know what you're doing, if you don't know how it feels to do what you do, you're not really going to do very well at it. And there's excess cash, which if you're starting off, isn't entirely necessary, but to go further than just some guy starting off some startup in his dorm room, you're gonna need excess cash, just because you know that's how you grow. You build off of each level. You start off with nothing, build up to where you have a little more cash to work with, then you build up from there, and then you build up from there, and so on. Uh, but that's what I see happening next. I'd love to. I don't know if I'd try it the first three times around. I don't remember if the entrepreneurship course is structured. You take the first class that I'm in right now, then you take the second higher level one, and then you take the third higher level one, and then you restart. I don't remember if it's structured like that, or you take the first one twice, then you take the second one twice, then you take the third one twice. But either way, my second time around, I want to try doing projects based off either ventures I would do or ventures I will be doing in conjunction with the class, because I that's a great excuse for me to actually start something, which it's not hard to start stuff. Financing is certainly interesting. Uh, you know, a lot of people are under the mentality that if you're gonna do a startup, you gotta dump all your money into it. I'm a firm believer in that you don't have to pay for everything yourself. Um, an example that is, for me anyway, is real estate. Um, because that's another interest of mine. Is I want to get some investment properties, but as a broke college student, I can't afford a down payment on anything. Despite that, it's very possible for me to get to get an investment property just through creative financing techniques like balloon payment, scary, um, wraparound payments, seller financing, whatever. Um, but there's a bunch of different creative ways that you can, get financing. You of course you have to know what you're doing. Um, but if you know what you're doing, usually it should work out. Like, and that's where I'm at right now. I want to make sure I know what I'm doing before I attempt anything. Because if I don't know what I'm doing and it all falls apart in my hands, I'm in a little bit of trouble if I haven't developed a proper escape plan from that. But that's what's next in my eyes anyway. Most of this quarter is just going to be project one but longer. Um, and that's how I see this quarter going. That's about it for Traction Journal 2. Um, I'm sorry this is taking so much of your time. I hope it's a little more entertaining or insightful than just reading a journal prompt. I also hope it's an acceptable format, because I find this way more enjoyable than just writing something out, like writing out something boring and boilerplate response in 15 minutes just to get it out of the way. I think that's boring. So I'd love to keep doing this if that's all right. It also gives me a chance to word brain dump all over you know all over my microphone, and helps me further process what I'm already thinking, which is always good. All right, so for the Traction Journal 1, again, I'm not going to be able to answer all of these just because I wasn't here for the first meeting, which was a Wednesday. And that week was very short anyway. So try to bear with me. I'll do the best that I can, but again, there not a lot happened for me week one. I was there for half of the first meeting on my Venture Project 1 group, so I didn't actually get to choose what we were, working on in terms of the project. I was just along for whatever happened after that, which I was all right with. It was a fun project. It was a really good project too. I think rebranding the Washington Redskins, a really good choice of things of project to take on. Um, I'm gonna start after the cultural or the culture of belonging statement. I'm gonna start with how are you preparing for success this quarter? What do you expect for E-level's journey this quarter? I'm gonna start with that. How I'm preparing for success this quarter. Um, don't get me wrong. I am a super lazy person. I don't like doing work ever. That goes for anything in life. Unfortunately, that's just how I am. That's just how I was raised. That being said, I'm real like I said this before. I'm really excited for this course. It's like the first time ever I've been excited for something in school because it's actually something I'm interested in. So while I don't really know how to prepare other than mentally for the course, like uh, basically my current preparation is like I'm just thinking through how everything's gonna go. I'm being ready for anything that's gonna happen. Um, not great to hear, I know, um, but I'm usually good on my feet. That's why I love this first week of projects because like I can do this kind of thing. I'm good at this kind of thing. So, uh, it's that's how I don't really know how else to prepare for this course aside from just to let things happen as they happen. Um, in terms of what do I expect for my E level journey this quarter? I was hoping for a lot more. When I signed up for this course, I was so ready to get into like the meat and like the details of everything, like the dumb legal details, like how law works in terms of startups and how I can exploit certain things or work around certain things like the dumb tax advantage stuff. Like example of real estate is if you sell a house, you don't have to pay taxes in it within a certain time if you use that money to buy another house. I was excited to learn that kind of stuff, but we're not starting off there. We're starting off very simple, just making sure we know how to develop a project, which I'm totally fine with. That's also very important. But I was certainly getting ahead of myself when I was getting ready for this class. Um, so what I expect for the E level journey? I don't know what E level means. I'm assuming entry level. I'm assuming it's like where I'm at currently. What I'm expecting from it is a lot of basic stuff. Just making sure I'm familiar with the field I'm in currently, and you know, just drilling the basics. And then maybe working on a couple things that are a little more advanced, but mostly basics. Um, and that's about it. That's about all I'm expecting. I'm not expecting anything to like law or anything yet. I think it's very important. But no, I'm just expecting like I said. Like I think the rest of this quarter specifically is going to be the first week just drawn out. Um, which again, if it's done, you know, properly should be totally fine, and I think I could enjoy. Let's see what else. What else? How might you apply this week's learnings to your future venture? Um, again, this is talking about the first week of class, which there wasn't a lot to be learned from that. Even this traction journal wasn't really mentioned to us E1s until the second week. Um, maybe the weekend of the first week, but that's at the earliest. Um, and I've already like how I could apply what I learned this week specifically to my future, ventures. Again, it's a lot of like learning what's an effective venture to pursue. I guess it's less of the effective venture to pursue and more of how to make any venture uh effective, I guess. Um I struggled to put my thoughts into words on that. Uh, cause we didn't really, or at least I don't think we really talked about what an effective venture would be. It was more about like, this is a good venture idea. Here's like, a small list of criteria or whatever. It was mostly rebranding, so it. I think in the first week, my thoughts were, you guys just said pick something to rebrand and go with it. And then from there, it was all about how to, like, what to do to acquire the right data and how to go through with that rebrand. It was mostly just how to do this, what you need to do to get this done. That's what this entire first like week and a half of this class has been for me. Um, all right. What else? What sparks you? Wait, what? What sparks do you have, and how are they inspiring your work? I've I've addressed this on accident several times now, but as I said, really excited for learning the law and like the inner actual workings of a business startup. I'm very excited for businesses. I'm ready to start my own venture. I'm not ready to start my own adventure. I'm eager to start my own adventure. Um, I'm interested in real estate. That really gets my spark flying because, like, uh, you know, the fact that someone like me who's broke, doesn't have any money, everything I have and more is going into attending Western, and the fact that someone like me can still afford to buy an investment property, sort of. I'm not buying it with my own money. I'm buying it with other people's money, just taking what I earn from that and giving it to them so I can actually earn from it while still earning from it. I think that sort of stuff is what really inspires me and gets me going. That's what I'm actually interested in. You know that sort of stuff. All right, and how might you apply this week's learnings to adventure? What jumped out at you freshly this time? Wait, the tools. The tools. I didn't really learn a lot from the tools, honestly. Um, the most I learned was from the the just project itself and going through it with my team. I had, as I said, I had a really awesome team that everyone did a good job of staying on top of things, and Megan did a great job of making sure we knew what we were doing and helping us keep on top of things. Um, maybe she might have done a little too good a job because I don't know if I could. I don't know if I were in her position that I would be able to do the same thing she did. She did a phenomenal job. Um, but I still liked the team we had. We had a really good team. So um, in terms of, yeah, like I said, I didn't really learn much from the toolkit. I kind of I went through it, but there was so much other stuff I was trying to like stay on top of and keep track of that it kind of got pushed to the wayside. Um, it's because there's so much stuff, too much clutter. Like we've got too much going on, too much. I'm not saying like not in terms of the project, just in terms of the sheer volume of websites we have to go through. Like Google Drive, like the actual website itself, Canvas, Zoom, Teams. There was another one that I can't remember. Oh, Socrative, which doesn't really count, but still Socrative. Also haven't used that since like sophomore year of high school, but that's just attendance, so and um yeah, no, that's pretty much it, honestly. I'm sorry this took, as long as it did. This wasn't supposed to be like 34 minutes long, but you know, word vomit, start spewing random information. I mostly just I had only seen the questions from prompt 2 once before now. I didn't really think of them that much, and I hadn't seen the questions from prompt 1 until just before I made this video. So it was mostly just me kind of like processing things and, processing the week mostly. Just like what my thoughts were on things, what I was excited about, how I thought things were gonna go. That's how I feel like these traction prompts were supposed to go anyway. So hope I did a good job of that. I think future traction prompts will be slower, hopefully, or not slower, shorter, hopefully. Just because I don't know that there's going to be as much going on, just because it won't be the first week of school. Um, but yeah, that's how I thought the first week and a half went. So if 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 you have any thoughts, questions, or whatever, you're welcome to hit me up. You know, if you don't like me doing it like this, which considering it took half an hour and some change, I can kind of understand that. But you can also throw this on in the background and you know, not really have to worry about it. You don't have to read through it, which in my opinion is better, but you might think differently. But yeah, no, if that's about it for now. So I guess I'll try to get this up on WordPress and see you next traction prompt.